I don't know the perspective of being dark-skinned Māori, but there's a whole other aspect that you get as being like pale skin, knowing your whakapapa and all that. You get it almost from both ends, because you're getting told constantly you're not Māori enough from Māori, and you're getting told you're too Māori from Pākehā, from especially some of the worst ones. And so there's an interesting kind of dynamic that comes into it. There was something else that I was going with there, but I can't quite remember. It was that's pretty much it. Yeah, that's growing up was kind of interesting seeing that on two sides. On the other aspect, you also get a lot of more casual racism from people, because if you're amongst your white friends and they think oh yeah, we're all white here, so of course out come the racist jokes, and you're having to be like, hey mate, like what the fuck, or having to just be like, and gritting your teeth and just having to live with it, because it's like, what do? Do you fight every single battle every day and wear yourself down until you're exhausted?
I'm like that with Asian jokes sometimes. I even started making Asian jokes about myself because it was easier to make people laugh than it was to pull people up on it. And I mean, it is interesting because the way I don't look Māori in the slightest. But you look similar to your cousins in Rotorua who speak fluent Māori.
Well, yeah, there's a whole question of like, what is Māori? I mean, the identity didn't even exist until Pākehā came in.
Well, Māori was like normal, wasn't it? Like,
well, I guess it was more, it was more, what's your whakapapa? Like, where are you from? Yeah. But not even iwi, like it was smaller usually.
Whānau.
Yeah. So the whole concept of identity has changed in that regards rapidly, very rapidly. And it was interesting growing up because I'd be on marae and it's, am I Māori enough? Do I speak te reo fluent? I mean, as I grew up, I actually lost a lot of my te reo just from lack of practice, and that's something that I am missing in that sense, because I never got the chance to like embrace myself in the marae life and getting up to speed with all that. And so it is use it or lose it. So it's it's a very complicated kind of question.
How do you think because you know a lot about your whakapapa, like that goes way back, and it's very impressive, and I am in some ways envious of your connection with your family heritage that goes that far back. But do you think that, because you're so good at telling those stories as well, like when I'm like, oh, who's that in that part of your whānau, and he's like, oh, I'm related to this person, and you know how to make connections between your whakapapa and other people's whakapapa as well, which is really cool to watch.
Well, that's part of I guess the Māori identity, is being able to do that. That's what whakapapa is for. It's placing yourselves, and once you place yourselves, you find those common lines. Even if you're not from the same hapu, you could still say, well, we've lived under the same mountain our whole lives, so, Do
you feel like that knowing that has been, or do you think your heritage has influenced your want to be a creative writer?
I think it wasn't initially, but it wasn't until I started writing that I realized I had access to all these stories. And it is kind of... they actually talk about it in university, how it's a common thing amongst Māori is that you have these stories, but you feel as if they don't belong to you, because they are the stories of your whakapapa, or maybe your tupuna, or like the people who came before. So there is that kind of tentative like, should I be telling these stories? But then you have the call kinds like of others saying, yes, you should be telling these stories. These are your stories. And so, if you're not telling them, someone else will.